Hey there and welcome back to Mass Effect. My name is Pete and today we complete the final journey to Ilos, where we will continue to search for and hopefully also find the Conduit. To get you back up to speed, we have discovered that the Conduit is on Ilos, and that happened after we shared the vision from a Prothean beacon on Virmire with Liara. We still do not know what the Conduit is exactly, but I'm pretty sure we will find that out soon enough. Now let's travel to Ilos, but before we reach the surface, we have a visitor.
Shepard, may I speak with you?
And you probably already know where this is going, so of course we will spare some time to talk.
I was just thinking about you.
I have been thinking about you too, and what we are about to face. I do not know what is going to happen on Ilos. I hope we will stop Saren, of course, but part of me fears we are already too late. There is something I must tell you, in case we fail.
Now we could be reassuring here, telling her that we won't fail, but that is likely not the discussion she's here for.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
These could be our last moments together. Our last chance to show each other how we feel. I want this to be special.
And just a few episodes ago, Liara was still a bit hesitant about all this, so let's just make sure we're not rushing her into anything.
We don't have to do this. Not unless you're sure.
I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Will you join with me, Shepard? Let our bodies and minds unite.
And of course, that is an offer we will not refuse.
Just tell me what to do.
By the goddess, that was incredible, Shepard.
Well, what to say, I think the only thing we can do here is to simply agree.
Amazing.
5 minutes ETA to the Mu relay.
I had better go. Duty calls. You would not want to keep Joker waiting. Shepard, whatever happens on Ilos, I just wanted to say thank you for everything.
Commander? We've got company.
Have their sensors picked us up yet?
Stealth systems are engaged. Unless we get close enough for a visual, they won't have any idea we're here.
Picking up some strange readings from the planet's surface.
Take us down, Joker. Lock in on the coordinates.
Negative on that, Commander. The nearest landing zone's 2 clicks away.
We'll never make it in time on foot. Get us something closer.
There is nowhere closer. I've looked.
Drop us in the Mako.
You need at least 100 meters of open terrain to pull off a drop like that. The most I can find near Saren is 20.
20 meters? We'll never get in close enough for a drop.
We have to try.
Find another landing zone.
There is no other landing zone!
The descent angle's too steep.
It's our only option.
It's not an option. It's a suicide run. We don't...
I can do it.
Joker,
I can do it.
gear up and head down to the Mako. Joker, drop us right on top of that bastard.
Alright, squad selection, and I have to admit this was a bit of a hard decision for me. Now, since we are landing on a planet full of Prothean ruins, I think Liara is a no-brainer. She also brings a lot of biotic abilities with her, and we will soon be in dire need of those. Now we need someone with tech skills to pair up with her, so either Kaidan, Garrus or Tali. And as much as I would like to take Garrus with me here, the choice in the end fell on Kaidan. Tech-wise, there is nothing Garrus can do that Kaidan can't do as well, and Kaidan also gives us a few more biotic abilities, and there are a few sections in the next few minutes where those will be invaluable.
We have to get inside this bunker before Saren finds the conduit. There is no way we're getting past that door with brute force.
Saren found some way to open it. There must be some kind of security override somewhere in this complex.
We will have to find some way to get it up and running again.
Right, now while we are quickly equipping Shepard with anti-synthetic tungsten rounds, let me address the fact that things are looking a bit strange on screen right now. That is the result of playing Ilos with a newer AMD processor installed. Normally this will result in completely black textures. The only known fix for that is to change some of the lighting and shadows in the game via the console, and that is exactly what I did, and also the reason why things are not looking as atmospheric as they could be. This error sadly persists for the entirety of Ilos, so we'll have to live with the slightly different look for this and the next episode. Now, as you have already seen, we are not the first ones to arrive on Ilos, and so we are already engaged in a hefty firefight with more of Saren's Geth. For the most part, the enemies here are more than manageable. All in all, Geth troopers should not be a threat to us at this point. A bit more challenging will be what is currently lying on the floor here, 2 Geth armatures that are activated if we get too close. Now, there is a way to avoid these two, and I will show you that way in a minute, but I also really like to see that we are in fact that powerful and can take out 2 armatures on foot. And having a second lift available here thanks to Kaidan is definitely useful, as it allows us to immobilize them both and calmly take care of business. As you might have been able to guess, it is a very good idea to finish off the Geth troopers first here before engaging the armatures, otherwise things might get a bit overwhelming. For the armatures themselves, I found that using warp, especially in combination with overkill, works wonders and can take down an armature at the speed that we normally take care of shock troopers and the like. Now I quickly had to move around a bit to officially get out of combat mode, and now we can loot the first crate on Ilos. The vast majority of crates on this planet will be locked behind hard decryption, so having a squad member with master sabotage with you is almost a necessity if you want to grab all the loot. Now, as you might have been able to see, there was a pathway leading off from where the armatures were lying. That was the way onwards, and as you also might have noticed, we have not taken that way. Instead, we are now once again engaged in a firefight, this time with a group of Geth sappers. However, it is important to note that the area that we're currently in is completely optional. This area is more or less only really useful if you want to avoid the armatures earlier, and since we defeated them both we could skip it, but there are a few enemies here and a bit of loot to grab, and after all this is a completionist playthrough, so of course we're going through here. The crate in the corner here should be the first thing we pay attention to after the fight, and once we've gotten our hands on 2 pistols and a sniper rifle we can continue. Our squad members are already wildly firing away, and that is because of a Geth trooper that hides around the corner here. He is just a single enemy, however, and quickly taken care of. Now, if you want to get rid of the armatures earlier, this armature control console here is what you need to do that. Successfully hacking it will disable the armatures, given of course that you haven't engaged them already. So if you want to save yourself the fight with the armatures, you can go down here, fight a few sappers instead, and then continue as planned. There is also a single assault drone down here, but even if your character is not maxed out, that should be quickly defeated. If you want to avoid that as well, you can of course turn around and go back the way we came from. We, however, will proceed back upstairs this way, which will lead us to the end of the courtyard that we fought in first. If you're now carefully looking straight ahead, that is where we encountered the first group of Geth troopers, and the small passage over here is where the armatures were positioned. For the moment, we have no business going back there and can instead turn left, loot another crate and then proceed. This kind of semi-linear level design is something I really like, by the way. It removes a bit of the straightforwardness that we sometimes encounter in this game, while at the same time not necessarily forcing you to choose either path A or path B. And speaking of which, instead of proceeding straight ahead here towards the statue, we turn right, which will allow us to get the drop on another group of enemies. We can simply climb up here and then ambush a Geth destroyer surrounded by 4 Geth troopers, who we can all send flying with a well-timed use of Singularity. Now, after taking the group out, the fight isn't over yet, but we have time enough to loot the crate here, otherwise I'm afraid I might forget that later. A few seconds later, we encounter a pair of Geth shock troopers who have elevated position and are therefore best engaged if the first group is already dealt with. Now this right here, this pathway behind us, this is where we would have come through had we not made the right turn earlier, and if you come through here you will end up with the shock troopers to the left and the other group on the right. Both will be able to fire on you, and so the alternative option that I just showed you is very likely the safer approach. Now, using the elevator here is once again entirely optional, but it will get us up to where the 2 shock troopers were positioned, and those 2 were guarding a secure crate. Now sadly we cannot drop down from here and once again have to take the elevator to get back down, which is somewhat annoying, especially considering the fact that we just went up here for one single crate. Now the way over to the left here, that is the way the game would probably like us to take, but we are instead once again taking a different path, one that will also once again give us a small advantage in the next fight. Going up the small hill here, we can sneak up on the group of Geth hoppers, and if we come from this side they won't notice us, allowing us to carefully place a Singularity right in their middle. With most of the hoppers flying, we can pick them off one by one and throw in the occasional lift if one of them gets away. Once they're all taken care of, we can simply vault up here. Our squad members, however, cannot follow us this way. They will have to take the small elevated path over to the left here. Now at this point we only have one more big firefight ahead of us in this video, and so far I would say we managed quite nicely. The way ahead here is once again down an elevator. Interesting to note, by the way, that in ruins that are supposedly 50,000 years old, the elevators are all still working, and our squad will soon comment on that as well.
This place still has power. It must be running off its own generator.
This must be the command center for the entire complex. Saren's troops must have sealed the doors from here after he went inside. We will have to figure out how to disengage the security lockdown if we ever want to get inside that bunker.
Right, Liara conveniently spells our mission out again for us. Finding a way to open the doors that block the Maker's pathway is definitely our #1 priority. Before we can get to work on that, however, we have another group of Geth to take care of. Now, compared with the fights before, this one right here is probably the most dangerous one. Our opponents not only have numerous troopers and destroyers in their ranks, they are also led by a Geth Prime, arguably one of the strongest enemies in the game. Now, there is an interesting way to go about this fight, and I will talk about that in a minute. We, however, will employ another strategy, and that simply consists of sending the Geth flying and heading for higher ground. From what I know, the Geth cannot follow us up here, and not only do we have an excellent elevated firing position, but it's also one that is decently well covered. This allows us to take care of the majority of Geth without taking too much damage, but you may have noticed that the Geth Prime was not among the casualties. He is waiting for us downstairs, and that is quite convenient, as we now have no other distractions and can focus all of our abilities on him. And 3-on-1, even a Geth Prime doesn't stand a chance. Now let's quickly talk about the other strategy for this fight that I mentioned earlier. We are currently interacting with an armature repair station. Using that successfully will activate a Geth armature, and if there were any enemies around, that armature would now fight for us. I have to admit though, I found it a bit risky to rush into the group of enemies only to activate a single armature, because even if there are 4 in total here that can be activated, we would very likely have to focus more on keeping ourselves alive than to get them to work for us. Ultimately though, I also didn't find the firefight too challenging, at least not to a point where I decided that we desperately need help, and so I simply left the armatures be for the fight. Activating them now won't serve much of a purpose, but once again, completionist playthrough, you know the drill. Before we can continue, there is one more container to loot here, once again locked behind hard decryption. Inside we can find a few weapons, but we won't change our loadout for the rest of the game. Now we can head upstairs where we can find the controls for the gate that is currently still blocking the Mako.
Come, Saren already has a head start. We have to go find him before he reaches the conduit.
Unless he's already found it, then we're just walking into a trap.
That is a chance we will have to take.
Hold on. Something's happening.
Too late. Unable to... Invading fleets. No escape.
Sounds like some kind of message, but I don't recognize the language.
It is probably in Prothean. This recording must be 50,000 years old. No wonder we cannot understand it.
Well, she can't, but after the interactions we had with the Prothean beacons, Shepard can.
The message is all broken up, but I recognize some of the words. It's a warning against the Reaper invasion.
Of course. Between the beacons and the cipher, an understanding of the Prothean language would have been transferred into your mind.
Not safe. Seek refuge. Inside the archives.
What's it saying? Can you make out anything useful?
Fought Reapers. The Citadel. Overwhelmed. Only hope.
Act of desperation. The Conduit. All is lost.
Well, the Reapers, the Citadel and the Conduit are mentioned, but so far not enough to paint a clear picture.
It said something about the Conduit, but it's too degraded to help. We should go.
Cannot be stopped. Cannot be stopped.
Now, despite the somewhat cryptic message here, we have made some progress. The doors in front of the Mako are now open, and that means we only have to get back to it to continue our journey. Luckily, there is an elevator close by, so we don't have to run all the way back. Let's quickly speed things up inside here because nothing really happens, and then we exit again and find ourselves in familiar territory. This right here is where the first firefight against the two Geth armatures took place, and the Mako is conveniently parked just a few meters ahead. And no, this elevator here is sadly a one-way street, only useful to get us back up here, but locked from the other side until we open the gates.
Who votes we take the vehicle into the creepy underground bunker?
Good idea. The firepower will come in handy.
Now, despite it being presented as an option, taking the Mako here is definitely not optional. As a matter of fact, soon enough it will be a requirement to continue, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I have spent my life studying the Protheans, but I never dreamed I would discover anything like this. This bunker might have been the last refuge of their entire species. Just imagine what mysteries it might hold. Imagine what secrets it might reveal.
Hey, try to remember why we're here, Saren, Conduit, the fate of the entire known galaxy.
I am sorry. I was swept up in the moment. I just hope we have the opportunity.
What are all those things on the wall? Some kind of containers?
They look like stasis pods. The Protheans probably tried to keep themselves alive.
Through cryogenic freezing is what she wanted to add, before being so rudely interrupted by a group of Geth rocket troopers further down the tunnel. And of course, since they're already mentioned, we should keep those stasis pods in mind. They will play a vital role in a few minutes. For now, we can focus on the rocket troopers, who are likely designed to be taken out with the Mako, but we have killed everything on foot for the entirety of this playthrough, and I don't see a reason to change that here. At this point in the game, it's also just a matter of seconds before we have the group of 4 eliminated, and to be fair, seeing them fly around helplessly is also a bit more fun. Continuing down our path, we see something resembling an energy shield further down, and on first sight this looks like something Saren might have put up to stop us from following him.
What is happening? I do not think Saren is behind this.
And a good point made by Liara here. Since we have stepped inside of the Mako, Saren hasn't really gone all out to stop us. Instead, he seems to focus all of his energy on staying ahead of us. And so it remains interesting to see who just trapped us, and more importantly, why.
I have studied the Protheans for decades, but I have never felt this sense of foreboding. What will we find down there?
I don't know. I just hope that whatever's down there is
You are not Prothean, but you are not machine either. This eventuality was one of many that was anticipated. This is why we sent our warning through the beacons.
Looks like some kind of VI program. Pretty badly damaged.
I do not sense the taint of indoctrination upon any of you. Unlike the other that passed recently, perhaps there is still hope.
This is incredible. An actual Prothean VI, and I can understand it.
I have been monitoring your communications since you arrived at this facility. I have translated my output into a format you will comprehend. My name is Vigil. You are safe here for the moment, but that is likely to change. Soon, nowhere will be safe.
So while we're safe, I think we can spare a few seconds for an introduction.
Are you some kind of artificial intelligence program?
I am an advanced non-organic analysis system, with personality imprints from Kesad Aishan, Chief Overseer of the Ilos Research Facility.
And now we can skip to the why. After all, we were kind of hunting someone down.
Why did you bring me here?
You must break a cycle that has continued for millions of years. But to stop it, you must understand, or you will make the same mistakes we did. The Citadel is the heart of your civilization and the seat of government, as it was with us, and as it has been with every civilization that came before us. But the Citadel is a trap. The station is actually an enormous mass relay, one that links to dark space, the empty void beyond the galaxy's horizon. When the Citadel relay is activated, the Reapers will pour through, and all you know will be destroyed.
Well, isn't that phenomenal? The Citadel, a back entry into our galaxy used exclusively by the Reapers. That of course begs the question, why didn't anyone ever notice that?
How come nobody ever noticed the Citadel was an inactive mass relay?
The Reapers are careful to keep the greatest secrets of the Citadel hidden. That is why they created a species of seemingly benign organic caretakers. The Keepers maintain the station's most basic functions. They enable any species that discovers the Citadel to use it without fully understanding the technology. Reliance on the Keepers ensures no other species will ever discover the Citadel's true nature. Not until the relay is activated and the Reapers invade.
So let us get this right, the Reapers stayed in dark space with no energy sources and pretty much nothing whatsoever for over 50,000 years?
How do the Reapers survive out in dark space?
We have only theories. The researchers here came to believe the Reapers enter prolonged states of inactivity to conserve energy. This allows them to survive the thousands and thousands of years it takes for organic civilization to rebuild itself. But in this state, they are vulnerable. By retreating beyond the edges of the galaxy, they ensure no one will accidentally discover them. They keep their existence hidden until the Citadel relay is activated.
And unfortunately, this looks exactly like the point where Saren comes into play.
If he turns on the relay, the Reapers can wipe out the Council and the Citadel fleet in one fell swoop.
That was our fate. Our leaders were dead before we even realized we were under attack. The Reapers seized control of the Citadel, and through it, the mass relays. Communication and transportation across our empire were crippled. Each star system was isolated, cut off from the others. Easy prey for the Reaper fleets. Over the next decades, the Reapers systematically obliterated our people. World by world, system by system, they methodically wiped us out.
Now remember the conversation we had with Saren on Virmire. He mentioned something regarding cooperation with the Reapers. Let's ask about how that went.
The war was lost. If you had surrendered, they might have let you live.
No offer of surrender was ever given. Our enemy had a single goal: the extinction of all advanced organic life. Through the Citadel, the Reapers had access to all our records, maps, census data. Information is power, and they knew everything about us. Their fleets advanced across every settled region of the galaxy. Some worlds were utterly destroyed, others were conquered, their populations enslaved. These indoctrinated servants became sleeper agents under Reaper control. Taken in as refugees by other Protheans, they betrayed them to the machines. Within a few centuries, the Reapers had killed or enslaved every Prothean in the galaxy. They were relentless, brutal, and absolutely thorough.
So the Reapers basically killed or enslaved the entire galaxy, and then what?
I don't understand. Where did the Reapers go after they conquered your people?
Our worlds were stripped bare, harvested by the indoctrinated slaves. Everything of value, all resources, all technology was taken. Certain that all advanced organic life had been extinguished, the Reapers retreated back through the Citadel relay into dark space, sealing it behind them. All evidence of the Reaper invasion had been wiped away. Only their indoctrinated slaves were left behind, abandoned. Mindless husks, no longer capable of independent thought, the indoctrinated soon starved or died of exposure. The genocide of the Protheans was complete.
And here comes the question that Sovereign himself was a bit too cryptical to answer. What the hell is the reason behind all this?
What do the Reapers get out of this? Why do they keep repeating this pattern of genocide over and over?
The Reapers are alien, unknowable. Perhaps they need slaves or resources. More likely they are driven by motives and goals organic beings cannot hope to comprehend. In the end, what does it matter? Your survival depends on stopping them, not in understanding them.
Then I suppose this right here is the point where you can tell us how to achieve that.
You said you brought me here for a reason. Tell me what I need to do.
The Conduit is the key. Before the Reapers attacked, we Protheans were on the cusp of unlocking the mysteries behind mass relay technology. Ilos was a top-secret facility. Here, researchers worked to create a small-scale version of a mass relay, one that linked directly to the Citadel, the hub of the relay network.
The Conduit is not a weapon. It is a backdoor onto the Citadel.
Right, finally revealed what the Conduit is, and before we can continue we have the option to ask Vigil how he stayed hidden, and I think, if only for the sake of completion, that is something we should do.
How did you manage to stay hidden?
All official records of our project were destroyed in the initial attack on the Citadel. While the Prothean Empire came crashing down, Ilos was spared. We severed all communication with the outside, and our facility went dark. The personnel retreated underground into these archives. To conserve resources, everyone was put into cryogenic stasis. I was programmed to monitor the facility and wake the staff when the danger had passed. But the genocide of an entire species is a long, slow process. Years passed, decades, centuries. The Reapers persisted, and my energy reserves were dwindling.
So I think you can see where this is going. What exactly did you do?
How did you survive?
I began to disable the life support of non-essential personnel. First support staff, then security. One by one, their pods were shut down to conserve energy. Eventually, only the stasis pods of the top scientists remained active. Even these were in danger of failing when the Reapers finally retreated back through the Citadel relay.
There were hundreds of stasis pods out there. You just shut them down? You killed them?
Well, as cruel as that might seem, if he hadn't, we might not have this conversation right now. So we'll take the 2 renegade points here and agree.
You couldn't let everyone die. Better to sacrifice some so others could live.
This outcome was not completely unforeseen. My actions were a result of contingency programming entered on my creation.
I bet they didn't tell the non-essential staff about this contingency.
I saved key personnel. When the Reapers retreated, the top researchers were still alive. My actions are the only reason any hope remains. When the researchers woke, they realized the Prothean species was doomed. There were only a dozen individuals left, far too few to sustain a viable population. Yet they vowed to find some way to stop the Reapers from returning. A way to break the cycle forever. And they knew the Keepers were the key.
So the Keepers, what exactly is their role in all of this?
Aren't they under the influence of the Reapers?
The Keepers are controlled by the Citadel. Before each invasion, a signal is sent through the station compelling the Keepers to activate the Citadel relay. After decades of feverish study, the scientists discovered a way to alter this signal. Using the Conduit, they gained access to the Citadel and made the modifications. This time, when Sovereign sent the signal to the Citadel, the Keepers ignored it. The Reapers are trapped in dark space.
Unless, of course, somebody opens the Citadel mass relay instead.
Saren can use the Conduit to bypass all the Citadel's external defenses.
Correct. And once inside, he can transfer control of the station to Sovereign. Sovereign will override the Citadel systems and manually open the relay, and the cycle of extinction will begin again.
So, at this point, once again, the question, what can we do to stop that?
Is there any way we can stop them?
There's a data file in my console. Take a copy when you go. When you reach the Citadel's master control unit, upload it to the station. It will corrupt the Citadel's security protocols and give you temporary control of the station. It might give you a chance against Sovereign.
Wait, where's the Citadel's master control unit? I've never heard of anything like that.
Through the Conduit, follow Saren. He will lead you to your destination.
Okay, we now have a file that will give us access to the entirety of the Citadel. Still, if Saren manages to get there before we do and is able to do his thing, then I don't see how that is going to change much. Now, we could leave at this point, but we also have the option to ask a few more questions, and let's start with Sovereign.
If the Reapers are trapped in dark space, how did Sovereign get here?
It is logical to assume the Reapers would leave one of their own behind after each extinction, a sentinel to pave the way for their inevitable return. Like those in dark space, Sovereign probably spent most of the last 50,000 years in a state of hibernation. Periodically, it would wake to analyze the situation. Keeping its existence hidden, it would evaluate the state of galactic civilization, and when the time was right, it would signal the Citadel and usher in the next Reaper invasion. But this time the signal failed. The Keepers did not respond. Sovereign's allies were trapped in the void. Alone, it was forced to try and discover what had gone wrong.
So why exactly did it not head straight for the Citadel?
Sovereign's the largest ship in the galaxy. Why all this secrecy? Why not just attack the Citadel?
Sovereign is not invincible. Revealing its true nature would have united the forces of every organic species against it. Even a Reaper couldn't survive such odds. But the Reapers are patient. They will not rush into the unknown. Sovereign could have been planning this for centuries, moving deliberately, gathering allies. Slowly, it has assembled the pieces of the puzzle, working through agents to keep itself hidden. Saren is the most visible pawn of the Reapers, but I doubt he was the first. Now Sovereign has grown bold. Whether from confidence or desperation, I cannot say. But it is determined to reopen the portal to dark space.
And speaking of that portal, let's also ask about the ones who take care of it.
So when the Reapers created the Citadel, they created the Keepers as well?
A more likely scenario is that the Keepers were one of the early harvested civilizations, perhaps the very first. Perhaps they responded well to indoctrination, or the Reapers simply bred them to be obedient. In any case, they were left behind to operate and maintain the Citadel. But the Keepers are no longer directly controlled by Sovereign or its ilk. They evolved so that they only respond to the signals emitted by the Citadel itself. When the Protheans altered the Citadel's signals, they broke Sovereign's hold over the Keepers. Now, they are completely harmless.
And a good point here made about the whole evolving thing, a risk that you don't really run into if you choose the Geth as your allies.
Sovereign must have realized that organic races were difficult to control.
A likely hypothesis. The Keepers evolved in an unanticipated direction. Non-organic servants like the Geth would be more predictable.
Now we can also ask Vigil about the Prothean beacons, because with the entirety of Prothean civilization being destroyed, it is a strange occurrence that those beacons did not only survive, but also have a message for us.
What about the beacon on Eden Prime? And the one on Virmire? What were they for?
At our apex, the beacons spanned the breadth of our empire. We used them as a single galaxy-wide network to transmit data and communications rapidly from world to world. Virtually all the beacons were destroyed during the invasion, but once the Reapers were gone, the survivors here on Ilos decided to risk sending out a message. We knew it was unlikely there were other survivors, but if there were, We wanted them to know about Ilos. We wanted to give them hope, so a message was sent across the network.
And yes, that was indeed quite the risk.
You could have exposed yourself to the Reapers.
In truth, we didn't expect any of the beacons would still function, but we had to try. If there were survivors, we had to reach them. The message was meant for our own people. It was coded so only organic beings could interpret it. We still didn't understand the power of Reaper indoctrination. We never realized it could lead an agent of the machines, like Saren, to this world. But it has also led you here. So perhaps we did not fail after all.
Well, perhaps your efforts were not completely in vain. By the way, what became of the Prothean scientists?
What happened to the survivors from the Conduit project?
They used the Conduit to gain access to the Citadel, but the Conduit is only a prototype. The portal only links in one direction, so they were trapped on the station. I do not know what became of them then. It is unlikely they found any food or water on the station. I fear they suffered a slow, grim death. I only know they succeeded in their mission to seal the relay. Your presence here proves their sacrifice was not in vain.
Alright, we have our data file and we have also gotten as many answers as possible. I think it's time to leave.
Saren's got enough of a head start. Grab that data file and let's go.
Shepard, are you sure? Who knows how much longer Vigil will be here? Even now the projection is weak. This might be our only chance to speak with it, our only link to the knowledge of the Protheans. It is the opportunity of a lifetime.
Now, Liara interrupts us here, and with good reason. Skipping the optional questions here is, in my opinion, a huge loss of backstory, and so she rightfully pushes to ask as many questions as possible.
It might know something useful.
I will provide whatever information I can. My data banks, however, are limited to information directly related to stopping the Reaper invasion.
As you can see here, however, we have asked all of this already, and so yes, it is time to go.
I've got the file. Come on.
The one you call Saren has not reached the Conduit. Not yet. There is still hope if you hurry.
Alright, we now have one of the longest, but also likely one of the best conversations in Mass Effect behind us, and we are now left with one very simple task. Activate the Conduit, use it to get to the Citadel, and stop Saren. And we'll do that in the next episode. For today I can say thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.